Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial. My name's ThaTimster. Today I'm going to be going over part 14 in the Project FPS tutorial series. Now last time we went ahead and got the cartridges coming out the side of the weapon, as you can see on both the primary and the secondary weapon, along with some smoke. So if you haven't already, go ahead and check out that part so it will be up to date, but apart from that, we'll be getting straight on into this tutorial. So in this tutorial, we'll be going over making the ground impact. So basically what that is when you press P and you shoot any obstacle, we want some sort of dust or smoke to be kicked up when the bullet obviously hits the obstacle. This is also good as it sort of shows the player where they've hit and lets them know that they've actually hit something. So the first thing I'm going to do is go down here and I'm going to go to layer 4, press Shift A, and I'm going to go ahead and add myself an empty. This is going to be called ground impact. Impact. And then what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to add an always sensor to it. I'm going to add a Python controller, join the two together, and then add a game property. This is going to be called dust, and then here we'll change it to an integer. So just for starting, I'm going to make it something like 4. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead to this layer over here, so the next one, layer 5, and then here I'm going to add myself a cube. I'm going to go over here, I'm going to make it invisible, so no collision and invisible. Then I'm going to add an always sensor, I'm going to add myself a motion and have it constantly moving, so in the upwards direction, so maybe 0.1 or 0.2. So it's moving up, oh, it's invisible. There we go. So something like that should be fine. Maybe 0.4 might be a bit better. Now for our elements, I'm going to go ahead down here to the bottom left hand corner layer, and this is where I'm going to go ahead and add in all my different elements, so all my smoke, all my fire, and all of that sort of stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is add in the smoke, so I'm going to press Shift A, add a plane, change it to no collision, we want it to be visible, then I'm going to rename this to smoke. And we already have something named as smoke, that'll be right, that'll be the guns, so let's just go ahead and call this dust. Alright, and then here, new material, no specular, keep scrolling, and what we want to do here is scroll down to the bottom, transparency, alpha to 0, add a new texture, image or movie, UV. This texture will be down in the description below, so if you want to go ahead and get yourself a copy, feel free. Otherwise, if you want to add your own textures, feel free to do that as well. So I'm going to scroll down here and check alpha under the influence. Then in this window, I'm going to press tab, U, and unwrap. Alright, so now we should, making sure you are in texture mode, this should be showing up like that. Alright. So now what we want to do is we want this to track towards the player. So go back to the Materials tab, and then under Face Orientation, we want to choose probably Halo is the best one. So I'm going to press P, and as you can see it's not working, so I'm going to press Z, and you can see it's facing us but on the side, so I'm going to press Tab to go into Edit Mode, then I'm going to press R, X, and 90. Then I'm going to press Enter, tab to go out of edit mode, scroll back, and let's press P, and now nothing is showing towards us, so turn off back facing, and nope, we're just getting the side. So what that means is we must be viewing it from this angle here, so we want to rotate it on the Z axis, so tab, RZ, and 90, then enter, out of edit mode, and give that another try, and there we go. So now what we want to do is, we'll see if it works in textured. It does, which is great. Now what we want the smoke to do is we want it to have an animation, and basically over the course of this animation we just want the dust to get slightly bigger and fade out. So down here I might maybe 30 or 40 frames, let's just say 30 for now. If you want to, you can make it up to 60. But again, that's up to you. So here what I'm going to do is, make sure it's all the way to frame 30. Then on frame 0, I'm going to scale it in a bit. Press I, insert scaling. Then I'm going to go to frame 30. Press S, not much bigger, just a little bit. and then I insert scaling. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the materials tab here, check object color, then go to the object settings here, scroll down, and we'll animate this property here. So on frame 0, we want this to be invisible, so I'm going to turn off alpha, right click, insert a keyframe, then I'm going to go to frame 5, turn up the alpha to full, right click, insert keyframe, so it just fades in. Then on frame 30, we want it to be invisible again, so no alpha, right click, and insert keyframe. So that's what it's going to be looking like, roughly. Now we want it to always play this animation, so I'm going to add an always sensor, join it to an action actuator, dust action, and we want this to end at frame 30. Cool, so that is the dust finished. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my ground impact. So I'm going to press Shift A, add another plane, move it across, give it another name, so let's just call this ground impact, and then over here I'm going to go ahead and give it a new material, no specular, keep scrolling, no transparency. On the texture tab, again, I'm going to click new, image or movie, UV, scroll down to alpha, and then I'll click open. So this texture will also be down in the description if you want to go ahead and get it, but again, if you want to go ahead and make your own, so this is completely yours, then feel free to do so as well. In this window here, I'm going to press tab, U, and unwrap to unwrap the plane here, and then I'm going to scroll down, make sure alpha is checked, and alpha is all the way to 0. Then what I'm going to do is press numpad 7, and what I want to do here is slightly rotate the texture. So I'm going to change this to UV image editor. I'm going to press tab in this window, and then we want to go down and choose smoke moving. Then I'm going to press SX to scale it on the x-axis. Then I'm going to press R, -45, and that will rotate it 45 degrees. As you can see in here, it's looking a lot better already. And then what I'm going to do is in the materials tab, make sure you have backfacing turned off. And then also what we might do is go over to the settings here, alpha, and tune that down a bit. So maybe 0.7. Then over here, just make sure everything is set off. I'm going to turn off all the shadow stuff here, so we don't get any shadows on it. Then what I'm going to do is press tab to go into edit mode. I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate, and then press R, Y, 90, and enter, and that will rotate it 90 degrees, so we have what seems like a complete bullet impact. Then what I'm going to do is select the whole thing, press tab again to go into edit mode, A to deselect, A to select everything, G, Y, move it on the y-axis, and somewhere close to the bottom, so roughly there. Tab to go out of edit mode. Then for this, I'm going to go ahead and go to frame 0 here. I'm going to press SY, and I'm going to scale it all the way down so it's fairly small, like so. Then I'm going to press S and then Shift Y to scale it on both the other axes. So we have something looking roughly like that, so where the ground impact would start. Then I'm going to select this, and go to the naming, make sure we've named it something, I, and insert scaling. Then I'm going to go over to frame 20, actually frame 10 here, and I'm going to press SY to scale it on the y-axis, and we want to scale it out as if it's hit something, like so, and maybe scale it out a bit as well, so S, Shift Y to scale it in the other two directions. Alright, so something like that, and maybe a bit more, Shift Y, alright. Then I'm going to press I and insert scaling again. So we have those two set in, so now we should have an animation that plays like that. However, we also want this to fade out again, so I'm going to go to frame 0, and go to materials first, go to object color, turn that on. Then I'm going to go to the object settings, so over here, scroll down, and we want to animate this field here. Now basically what we want is we want it to be fully visible while it's sort of shooting out of the ground, but once it's finished doing that, we want it to become invisible again. So I'm going to go to frame 20 here, and then I'm going to click in here, turn off alpha, right click and insert keyframe, then back to frame 10, and I'm going to go ahead and turn up the alpha to full. right click, insert keyframe. Then also on frame 20 here, I'm going to select this and then press S, Shift Y, and scale it outwards, and then SY, and maybe scale it in a bit, as in the dirt has sort of fallen down a little bit and gone outwards. Then I'm going to press I and insert scaling again, and so now we should get something out of that, which doesn't look too bad, except it's sideways. So I'm going to press RX90, and that's what our ground impact will look like, which is looking pretty cool. Now the starting point of it might be a little bit large, so I'm going to press S, Shift Z, scale it in, I insert scaling, and we can give that another try. Alright, so something like that. Again, maybe frame 10, we might want to bring it in a bit, just like so. But apart from that, I think the rest of it is looking pretty good. Now under the logic here, we want to go ahead and add an always sensor, and we want to add an action, and we want it to always play the action here. So ground impact, this one right here, and it ends at frame 20. Alright, so there we go. Cool. So we can minimize all of those, and then I'm going to go over to my spawner here for the ground impact. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and change it to text editor. I'm going to move this down if I can. There we go. I'm going to make a new script, and I'm going to call this impact. Impact.py. Then within here, I'm going to type in import BGE to import the Blender game engine, and then I'm just going to keep this as a simple script. So cont is equal to bge.logic.getCurrent controller, and then own is equal to cont.owner. Then in here we want to basically, when this is greater than 0, we want it to spawn in our objects. So we're going to need the scene as well, which is equal to bge.logic.getCurrentScene. So we want to also spawn in our dust here. So dust is equal to own dust, and then I'm going to press enter twice. If dust is greater than 0, we'll do a colon, and then down here we want to run a random rotation, so it's constantly changing. And then at the same time, we also want to spawn in our dust. So what I'm going to do here is type in own.apply rotation, like so. Then I'm going to do a round bracket, like that. And then in here, I'm going to do a square bracket, and I'm going to type in 0.0. So that's how much we want to rotate it on the x-axis, which is nothing. We don't want to rotate it on the x-axis. Then I'll do a comma, 0.0 for the y-axis. We don't want to rotate it around the y-axis. And then for the last part here, so comma and then space. And then within here, we want a random number to generate. So up the top here, I'm going to press enter and type in import random, I guess. Yep. And then in here, we want to type in random.randint, and then a bracket, and this is the value that we want to have. So we want it to, let's just say, start at negative, I don't know, negative 180 to 180. So that's all the negative values and all the positive values as well. So I'm going to close that off. Then also we might just separate this out, so brackets around it, and then I'm going to do a closing square bracket and a closing round bracket just to seal off the entire statement. So if we've done that right, now if we go to the next line, we want to spawn in our dust. So in here I'm going to type in scene.objects, and we want, actually not objects, scene.add object, and then a round bracket, quotation mark, and the name. So I'm going to go over here and select it. It's just called dust, so we'll just type in dust over here. So I'm going to type in here comma and then own. Basically I want it to spawn right where this is, at least starting off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another comma, and in here I'm going to type in how long I want it to live. So let's just say 30, because the animation is 30 frames long. then a closing round bracket, and now what I want to do is -1 from dust. So basically we've spawned it in, and now we need to -1 from the dust property. Otherwise this would be continuously going. So in here I'm going to type in own dust, and then minus what is equal to 1. And then in here what we can do, maybe turn that up, set that to true, and in here we'll choose impact. So there we go. So if I press P, as you can see, they all spawn in the same spots, and it becomes sort of very thick and obvious that they aren't sort of separated. So what I'm going to do is go down to this layer here. I'm going to select this, and then we're going to add ourselves some motion to it. So add a motion actuator, and then in here, let's just say we want it to move on the x-axis. So I'm going to go back to my layer here, and once you've added a certain amount, maybe 0.2, can press P, and that was way too fast, so try 0.1. That's a little bit more acceptable, maybe 0.05, maybe 0.07 actually. And let's give that a try. Alright, so I think I'm a bit more happy with that. So what I'm going to do is maybe turn up the smoke here, so we have about 6. And then also, I might go ahead and try changing the texture here, see if it makes a bit of a difference. So over here, I'm going to choose our other smoke texture we have. So there we go, I have our other smoke texture. So let's just try that out, and I think that looks a little bit better than the other one. So I think I might save the other one for, say, an explosion or something. Alright, so that is looking good. Now what I might do is, again, on this one here, we might go ahead and turn down the alpha just a bit. Alright, and then go back to this layer here, press P. Alright, so now we want to also spawn in our impact, which is shooting upwards. So I'm going to press enter, and then delete 4 times, and then down here, and if dust is equal to 1, then in here we want to type in scene.add object, and then ground impact, I think it was. Ground impact. And then own, and however long it was, I think 20. Alright, so let's double check those details. Ground impact, yep, and 20 frames. Alright, so that should be fine. So now if we press P, so now there is only one thing wrong with it, and that is that it's shooting out the side here. We want it out the top, so I'm going to press Ctrl A and apply a rotation. Then we'll go back to this layer here, press P, and there you go. You can see it shooting out the top like so. Now what you might want to do is turn these down a bit, just so they sort of stay together a bit more. So maybe 0.0, maybe 0.04. And let's go to this layer. Oh, wrong one, this one here. So maybe it's sort of like that a little bit more, just so they cover up the ground impact as it's going. Now what I want to do is go back to this layer here, and just make sure it's on no collision, the ground impact. And yeah, the rest should be fine. I'm also going to make this animation a bit more obvious. So frame 0, I'm going to scale it down, something like that. We might also want to do is add a little bit, just a really small amount of upwards movement, so maybe 0.01. Alright, so that just sort of lifts them up off the ground a little bit. So to cover up the ground impact, as you can see here, which is still fairly obvious, I'm going to add myself in a spawner that will sort of move upwards and cover up the smoke, or cover up the ground impact. So this right here, what we made before, our cube, I'm going to rename to dust spawn. And then over here, I'm going to add an edit object, join that together. And in here, we want to choose dust. And this can end at, I think it was 20. Was it 20? No, 30. Alright, so if we press P, it only does it once. So set it to true, maybe 3 or something. And there we go. Alright, so let's go to this layer here, and in our script we can add it in. So scene.add object, and then our spawner, which was, if we double check the name here, dust spawn. So dust spawn. and then own, and we want it to last for not that long. Let's just say maybe 6 frames. I'm going to press P, and you can see it's added some. I'm going to scale this down a bit and set it to invisible so we don't see it. Alright, but you can sort of see what it's doing, where it has the dust spawn there. What we might do is make it a little bit more frequent, so 2 on the always sensor, and it's going a little bit high. So what I might do here is, just turn that down, maybe to 5, although it is reaching close to the same height as the ground impact, which is good. Alright, so something like that. Now you'll notice that the ones we are spawning in, they do also drift to the side. So just to fix that, we might make a special one. So Shift D to duplicate, move it over here, and let's call this dust underscore up. So it's moving upwards. Then I'm going to get rid of this X movement, and then over here, I think this one here, I'm going to, on the spawner, I'm going to go ahead and choose dust up. There we go. And now, there we go, they don't move, which is great. And now if we press P, you can see that we have just plain dust spawning right there. Okay, so that is going to be the basic setup that we're going to use for ground impacts. If you want to go ahead, and I might quickly do it now, just make the animation again more obvious, then feel free to do so. Also, if you want to, you can add in rubble. So maybe while this is spinning round, you want to add a piece of rubble that's moving as the smoke on the local x-axis, and maybe some upwards motion. So it's moving out as each random location is generated. But again, that's up to you if you feel like you want to go ahead and do that. For now, I'm just going to leave it at this simple dust spawn, as I think that should be fine. But apart from that, I think that should be good for the dust spawn. So let's go ahead and add it into our normal scene. So I'm going to go back here, and then I'm going to minimize that. And then what I want to do is add in a new script here, and this is going to be my Bullethole script. Actually, what I'm going to do is go back here, and I'm going to try and find impact, and I'm going to name this to dust, and let's just say not dust impact, dust spawn. There we go. And then we can go back to our new document here, and this is where we're going to go ahead and add in our bullet script. So down in the description below will be a link to a Bullethole script, so you can go ahead and copy and paste that, or if you want to, you can go to File, Open, and open up the text box. So on the camera here, or the eyes, I'm going to go ahead and add a Python controller, and then on this side here, I'm going to add a ray. Now this is going to be how far the bullet we shoot goes, so let's just say 200 for now. And what we want to do is we want to shoot this out on the negative z-axis, so forwards. So let's choose negative z here, making sure you're in local so you can see what way it goes. Then we want to leave X-ray mode off, and in here, let's just put ground. Then what I'm going to do is join it up to the Python here. I'm just going to call this, let's just say impact. And then this script over here, I'm going to rename to, just bullet hit or something. So bullethit.py, choose that here. And then what we need is some sensors and actuators. So ray is equal to cont.sensors, and then just how it's spelled here. So this name right here is this one over here. Actuators, we need to spawn in our bullet impact. So I'm going to go to edit object. So we want to go ahead and add in our empty, or ground impact. So let's go ahead and check what that's named. Just ground impact with a underscore. So back to layer 1, number 0, select this, and then we'll just type in GRO, ground impact. Oh, that one there with the underscore. And this is going to last for, well, we don't really need it to last for long. Let's just say 3. And then we can rename this to ground. Then we'll minimize that. And in the actuator here, we'll import this in. So ground is equal to cont.actuators, and then ground, because this right here is what we've named this here. And then what I'm going to do is, in this next line, we only want this to execute if this ray is true. So what I'm actually going to do is, just for now, type in if ray dot positive and then a colon, and then I'm going to press tab on everything here just to make sure it only happens if the ray is positive. Now also what we want to do is we want to make sure that the player is shooting when this happens. So we don't just want to look at the ground and random ground impacts pop up like we have laser vision or something. So what I'm going to do is let's go over here and add ourselves in a message for M24 flare, and then join that in there, and then yeah, we'll call it M24 flare, and then over here add another message, let's just say Glock flare, and then type in here Glock flare. Now hopefully that is what was set up before, so let's go over to layer 2 and double check that. Not Glock the reload, Glock flare, message, Glock shoot. So we actually want Glock shoot, not Glock flare, and same with the M24. So let's go over here and rename this to shoot for both. Alright, the title doesn't really matter, we can leave these how they are. So what I'm going to do is import in my sensors here. So Glock flare, as I've spelled it here, cont.sensors, and then Glock flare, and then I'm going to close that off like so, and then also the M24 flare. So M24 flare is equal to cont.sensors, then M24 shoot, not flare. Same with the Glock over here. Alright, so rename that to shoot. Now also we want to add this to the if statement. So if Glock, well, let's just put and Glock flare dot positive. We need to make sure that the player is only holding a certain weapon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this here. See if there's a simple way to do this. Nope. So let's just go ahead and import in our property. So I'm going to select the camera again, minimize these two, and type in if ray.positive and Glock flare.positive, and now we want to make sure that the gun equipping thing here, we want to make sure that that is set to Glock. Let's go ahead and import in our scene. Game logic.get current scene. Oh, there we go. And then what we want to do is, well, I guess import in our player. So we want to import in our gun spawn here. So gun spawn is equal to scene.objects square bracket quotation mark gun spawn, the name of it here, and then from within that we want to go ahead and check whether the property for equipped is set to 2, which is the Glock. So in here we're going to type in and gun spawn equipped is equal to 2. So also what I need to change down here is this over here. So ray.hit position, we've changed this to ray, so capital R because it's over here, and then do that over there as well. Then over here, instead of spawn, we have ground, so this right here, and then this here is ground. Alright, and all of that should be fine. So now if I go ahead and press P, hopefully if that works, we should be getting ground impacts. Now obviously it doesn't because we don't actually have a property. So let's go on our plane here, or our ground. Let's go ahead and add the property ground. Then texture view, and scroll light a bit. reload, and there is nothing going. So let's go ahead to the window here and toggle system console and see what's wrong. So bullet hit 19 CONT is not defined. So that would be this here. They've defined it as C instead. So let's just delete the ONT and make sure we haven't used it somewhere else. Here we have. Alright, everything else should be fine. So let's give that another try. Nope, still not. So check the errors. Line 20, gun shoot does not exist. So, oh, we still kept them at flare, didn't we? Alright, that problem done. Okay, try that again. Hey, and there we go. We have some nice bullet holes being applied. Now it looks like they might be upside down. Alright, so the problem is I think we haven't allowed it to spawn in everything. So let's turn up the time to say 10. And then press P and go ahead and give it a go. So there we go. There is all our dust spawning in. So again, the problem there was that the time wasn't enough for it to actually spawn everything in. So what I might also do here is turn the space maybe to 0.3. Just so we can get a bit more of the dust. There we go, showing up above the ground. So now, if that is, say, a little bit much for you, maybe turn that down to 5 or something. But apart from that, let's go ahead and add it in for our primary weapon. So let's go over here to our script. So what I'm going to do is press in here, we'll just click and type in OR. And then ray.positive and Glock, not Glock, M24 flare dot positive and gun spawn equipped is equal to 1. And I think that should be everything else. And then if we try the primary here, you can see we have it for this as well. Alright, so what you might want to do is over here, if we go to this over here, we might want to turn down the speed to say 0.35 and just sort of see how that impacts. So I might go ahead and tweak the values here. So if we go to our dust spawn, and basically the main reason is if you press P, you'll notice there is only about one piece of dust that gets spawned upwards. So over here, maybe change the speed to 0.3, so they're not traveling so far up. Then again, I'm going to turn down the lifetime, back to 4, and somehow that might be a bit better. Alright, so layer 1, 0p, and reload, and there we go. So that's looking a little bit better. So either way, I am fairly happy with this. There we go, it's looking pretty good. And then also, yeah, we have it working for both weapons, which is great. So now if you have other obstacles, for example, a cube here, which I'll add, and if you add the property ground to it, then basically the bullet, when it hits it, will align to this, which is great. As you can see, it's shooting towards me. Then if I shoot the side there, with the ray, it should shoot out the side, like so. Next time, we'll be going ahead to add the body hits. So that is basically when the blood is spawned in, when one of the enemies is hit. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. If you did, be sure to let me know with a like or comment down below. Also, if you want to stay updated for these videos when new ones come out, feel free to subscribe as well. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed the video, have an awesome week, and I'll see you guys in the next one.